You're watching the Eternal Tournament series.
And we are back for round 3 of the first ever Sealed Tournament in Eternal, sponsored by KCBandit, presented by us here at aReNGee Eternal. We've had a lot of exciting action so far, and we've got more coming our way here with Isomorphic against GrumpyPants. And here to help break down all of this sealed action is Man on Mouse. How you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. I am excited to see more matches, and I want to see some real grindy matches. That would be my wish for now, and that is a good hand here that isomorphic is presenting, like the blind storyteller right off the bat. I would keep this hand.
Yeah. Isomorphic, I think, is liking this hand. Blind Storyteller, a card that might not get much fanfare normally in draft, is a card that in Sealed gains a lot of value, as you said, trying to be slow and grindy, and Blind Storyteller loves that. Doesn't give you card advantage, but a huge advantage in card quality.
Oh, yeah. Also, both players kept here. So we'll see. GrumpyPants is on a more aggressive game plan in his deck. He has a lot of small units and weapons. Tons and tons of weapons to stick on his units. While Isomorphic is more with a traditional approach, I think. He has just a nice, well-balanced deck with solid units all around the curve. Yep.
Isomorphic, you can tell by this hand, as there is a Lumen Shepherd lurking. He is 3 faction. He's got a Time Splash, but it's mostly just Feln, very solid cards. As GrumpyPants plays out the Silverwing Familiar. And as you said, GrumpyPants is taking a pretty unconventional approach to his sealed deck here by playing a lot of what I would consider low quality cards, but trying to push the synergy. He's got things like Young Gun and Warn Shield, trying to just play units and put weapons on them, has an Artisan to try and tie the room together. But this is the slow start he's not looking for, and Isomorphic is just sculpting his hand here with looting and seeking.
Yeah, I think with GrumpyPants just playing a 1/1 on. Oh, that was an unfortunate execution error there. He wanted to swing in first and then play the 5/1 to get the spark trigger here. Kind of lost some value. Yeah, and I feel with him just playing his first unit on turn 3 already puts him on the back foot against Isomorphic's deck here.
Yeah, so we don't have a hand cam set up for GrumpyPants. It's a very large tournament where we just simply didn't have the ability to get everybody's info for how to set up the hand cam on set up. But here we go. And Auric Runehammer's a pretty good card to have in this situation when you think you're a little behind on board. It's pretty easy to get a 2-for-1 out of that card, although GrumpyPants doesn't have the best blockers here to sit back with.
It's pretty awkward, right? All of his units can't properly... Okay. Not quite sure I like this swing, though, because that trades his 5/1 for the 1/1 there.
Yeah, if I'm swinging with anything, it'd be the Silverwing Familiar again, because if Isomorphic just goes for the activate Borderlands Wakekeeper, it's not like I really want to chump block with Familiar here just to save my hammer, although the hammer is a clean answer to Wakekeeper. So GrumpyPants chooses to hold it, but gives up basically his best unit that wears weapons.
He does, but it might be his best answer to his opponent's Aegis flying unit there as well. So he might be forced to basically trade units there, right? It's like he traded his Silverwing Familiar there for the Wakekeeper.
And here we see a Spirit Guide come down. Very strong card. 3/3 lifesteal for 3. Gives something else lifesteal. Chooses to get the 5/1 lifesteal instead of the 1/1 quick draw lifesteal there. As Isomorphic gets to play out his 4/6 Lumen Shepherd.
Yeah, and right now that is a tough spot here for GrumpyPants. The board does look somewhat even, but it's very stalled. And the guy, usually the player with the looting or the blind storyteller on board, is in a favorite position here.
Yep, and here we see what we were talking about earlier, where flyers reign supreme in this format. It's all about owning the skies, and while GrumpyPants might think he has that right now with the Huru fledgling out as a 3/3 flyer, Isomorphic's packing a Violent Gust and a Curator in hand, and finds the Slime Spitter Slug off of the Blind Storyteller. And for those that aren't familiar with my favorite boy, this guy really helps curate the skies.
Oh yeah, I think that is the card I despise the most in the whole set too. I don't think I've lost to a single card more often than to this single slug here. Yeah. It is just devastating when it comes down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when for those that aren't familiar with Slug, when he comes down, every unit on board with flying gets -1/-1 for each unit you control. So right now, if Isomorphic plays Slime Spitter Slug, all flyers in play will get -4/-4, so that fledgling will die. And also, whenever your opponent's units die, the slug grows and you gain life. So here we see it come down, eat up a bird, and become a 7/5 and give Isomorphic a little bit of health.
I was about to say, do you slow roll the slug here maybe? Do you try and get more value? You were in a pretty comfortable spot. You're at 20 life, the 3 health, the 3 damage per turn doesn't do much. And if you have looked at GrumpyPants' deck list, he has 4 of those fledglings in there.
Yeah, he does, but at the same time, you do want to start getting aggressive here, and Accelerated Evolution is a great way to do that. And you also have a Curator and a Gust, so if they do have another flyer, again, you're going to continue to like dominate the skies anyways. And man, this looks awful for GrumpyPants. Isomorphic is just doing whatever he pleases here.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been the greedy line, try to slow roll. He has so many flying defense in hand, and now the game is pretty much over. Like, does GrumpyPants any hard removal in his deck? I don't think that is the case. I don't see a Vanquish here. Oh, he chooses to. Yeah, I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other fun thing is you can use Accelerated Evolution on an opponent's unit to give it flying and kill it with Gust.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we'll see that line come out of Isomorphic as GrumpyPants just puts a Warden Shield on a Young Gun and just jams in. I think this is the old A-Space concede move that we're so familiar with. So yeah, GrumpyPants has an ambitious build. Didn't quite work out this game, but maybe it will next time. The thing is, he's got all these small units that he's trying to equip up, and Isomorphic has 3 Plagues in his deck.
Oh yeah, that's going to be rough. But to be fair, ISO had a really strong start to begin with as well. He had his filtering. He had one of the best early defensive units in the game with Borderlands Waykeeper. That is just every aggressive deck's nightmare. Seeing a 1/3 Aegis that can also start blocking in the air at some point. And Grumpy was off to a somewhat slow start. So maybe with a better draw and with his game plan pieces aligning better here for the Pants, might work out this time.
Yeah, GrumpyPants just really needs to get on the board like turn 1, turn 2 if his overall plan is going to work out. It didn't happen that last game, and even if it did, it would have been a bumpy ride for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think he needs something like Dysentery Infantry on turn 1, followed by his Rakano Artisan, and then just slap on buffed weapons on his units to have a shot here against because the overall power level, when you look at the decks and just judge them by the power level of the cards they are containing, not considering any game plan, it's like David versus Goliath here. GrumpyPants runs a lot of cards that are widely deemed as below average or straight up unplayable, and Isomorphic's deck is jam full of value.
Yeah. GrumpyPants has to somehow get a hand that brings together all the synergy. Keep in mind, both these players are 2-0, so something's been working for him, and that something might be that Runehammer we saw. He also has another huge card in Sealed, I would say, is Steel Fang Chakram, which sometimes can be a little low or a little slow in draft, but in Sealed, you're going to get full value out of something like that.
Oh yeah, that is an excellent card to grind down your opponent, getting value out of basically every unit you have. Like a Grenadine Drone, like a Stranger, doesn't matter. It will trade with one of your opponent units, most likely.
Yeah, and his deck has even things like Steadfast Deputy and that Young Gun we saw. If you give a 1/1 quick draw +4 attack, that's a pain to deal with.
Suddenly looks pretty good, yeah.
Anyways, I guess players are still looking at their sideboards, trimming and changing things, and then they'll get back into it.
Another key card I think Grumpy will be looking for is his Quartermaster. He's running a one-off only Quartermaster in his deck. And I didn't count, but I think he has at least 10 attachments or so in his deck in total. So he can use this as kind of a to keep the steam flowing when he puts on the early pressure on his own opponent.
I hadn't looked towards the bottom of his deck, but I just noticed something a little odd. He's playing Amber Monument, Cobalt Monument, and Amethyst Monument. I don't think he has any way to cast those monuments once they transform.
Unless he has the diplomatic seals early on in the deck. Yeah, that's I was wondering. I was still looking the whole time if there are any cards that are splashed in this color. Yeah, I think he might have made a slight deck building mistake there.
Yeah, he has a Stonescar Stranger and a Cumbre Stranger, but he has no way to ever get a Primal Influence except for that Diplo Seal, as you talked about. Maybe he forgot that the monuments have influence requirements to cast them.
Yeah, it's an easy mistake to make, right? You have to have actually an influence to cast the corresponding monument. Here's Stonescar, Cumbre Stranger. So the only thing he will have some problem with is the Cobalt Monument.
So the match is started again. I jump in and I see an Ice Bow and Isomorphics Void, and that's because GrumpyPants has switched strategies. Turn 1 Sabotage, turn 2 Scavenging Vulture. So
wait, he completely switched his decks then, right? He's suddenly a Felming.
Yeah, he's off the Rakano strat and onto, it looks like, a Felm strat here.
That is really cool. That is one of the cool tricks you can do in this format, right? Have basically 2 decks at the ready, 2 or maybe even 3 decks, depending on your pool, at the ready to bamboozle your opponents and try to catch them off guard.
Yep. So that is, as you said, one of the sweet things with this format. You're in all the cards you use is your pool. So every card that GrumpyPants wasn't playing was his sideboard, and it looks like he's going with the full transformative sideboard, bringing in a totally different deck. Of course, this deck also looks a little weak to Plague so far, as we see his plays just being a Lethari Memory Keeper and a Scavenging Vulture. Not quite the imposing cards that will exactly catch your opponent off guard.
So we don't know exactly what his new game plan is. But it looks like it's still going to fall short. We don't know what his hand looks like. We don't have a hand cam here. But oh boy, do I like Iso's hand here. He's most likely going to be forced to play his monument. Oh no. Oh, I can already smell the ashes here.
Yeah. Oh man, I think Isomorphic's going to opt to play the monument instead of the sigil, like you said, just to guarantee this slug curve out. And maybe looting first, because you don't want your Tower Top Patrol to get eaten up by the slug anyways.
Yeah, now he's most likely wants to play the monument. He doesn't even need to say to use the Dragon Breath here. He can just play the monument path and next turn just drop the slug, get a nice 2-for-1. Oh, he's ditching the patrol. That is I would get suspicious here if I was GrumpyPants. I would get highly suspicious there.
But at the same time, what exactly can you do? You can't hold up a backlash for Slug. He's just going to show up and eat up your units anyways. I'm trying to see what else GrumpyPants has in his deck, like to switch to Felm. I found a Thunderstrike Dragon. Apparently the Spike Helm sticked around.
Oh, I think he also wanted to...
oh, yeah.
Like the Stranger, it's a unit that can contest the 4-1, but the Blind Storyteller is really the winning card here.
The other thing here is if he put the Helm on Psionic Savant and paired the removal there, it would have been a 3-3 and survived the Slug. But instead, by splitting up and having two health units, the Slug got to eat both. Now, that line did play better around the 3 Plagues in Isomorphic's deck, so it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah, once again, Grumpy in a really hard spot here. Is Iso going to eat his Storyteller there? Yeah, I agree. He doesn't really need any more card filtering to win this game. The Amethyst Acolyte is going to make quick work of the Memory Keeper here, and that should be the game.
Yep, and remember, every time Grumpy Pants has a unit that dies, the slug grows, so it's looking to become a 9/7 here, bashing in for 14. And while Grumpy Pants tried to pull a fast one on isomorphic, the card quality of isomorphic, it's just through the roof here.
Yeah, it's really good. And I wish my slugs would look that good. Usually when I play a slug, my opponent plays a levitate on it and my own slug dies. That's my experience with slug, at least.
I have not seen that happen yet in Limited, although I've got a play set of premium slugs that I like to trot out on the ladder from time to time, and they can do some work there as well.
Yeah, that was a quick game. Curious Wind Shaper. Have we seen many flying units from ISO? Let me look at that list.
He doesn't have a ton, but again, as we've talked about, it's about ruling the skies, and Windshaper as a 2/4 for 4 is still a fine body to stall the ground, and
yeah,
whatever flyers you do have, that little bit goes a long way.
I mean, I guess he does have Thunderstrike Dragons. They necessarily don't need the help of a Windshaper. But you can never be too sure. Yeah, that was a quick 2-0, and if I needed to guess, just looking at the deck list, I think that would have been my expectation there as well. Unless Grumpy Pants got off to a really strong start, like an excellent draw there. I think, yeah, he stood very little chance against how the threats of isomorphic lined up against his deck there.
Yeah, it'll be fun as this tournament moves forward and we stick in these high exo brackets to see the really crazy decks going up against each other, because we've had a few one-sided ones here, but also we've seen our fair share of haymakers on both sides so far. With these pools having 12 packs, you have the opportunity to get a lot of bombs that synergize with each other.
Oh yeah, I've in preparation for this tournament, I cracked open a bunch of pools myself to see how the whole deck building process looks like. And I had one pool, I basically could build Vola combo. I had it all. Like the Mystic Ascendant, Rakan was looking good. So if you get lucky, you can build some really strong decks there. And we have seen that before, right? I would love to see like ISO versus Iliac, for example, like the good old Fel Mirror here.
Yeah, that one I wouldn't be shocked if that comes up late in one of these later rounds, or maybe even the top 8, as they're both on target for that so far. Still a lot of rounds to go, but if you're sitting at 3-0 already, you've got to be pretty happy. And we also saw Child Roland's crazy, 2 faction but also 5 faction deck, just throwing the kitchen sink at people. So some real decks with real personality showing up so far, where some people going into the tournament were speculating like, oh, everybody's just going to be Elysian base because those are the 2 deepest factions, but you never know with these randomly generated packs. You can get a whole lot of different strategies out of it.
Oh yeah, that would have been my guess as well. When I first thought about the whole limited format, what would be the strongest colors, my first instinct was to say Time, definitely, because it has just solid units and gives you access to more fixing. Then most likely Primal. I wasn't too sure about the third one. After doing some of the pools, my guess would have been Just, which is basically the old holy trinity of draft, really, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Modern limited sometimes has gotten away from old school ideas like Bread, where it's bombs and removal and evasion, but Sealed is still very much in that wheelhouse, especially a 75 card deck. It looks like we are in a backup match, though. We've got Ghost Dragon up against Starlbirth. This is game 3, and Ghost Dragon looks to have some good fixing, some okay removal, and some evasion with that Humbug Swarm. 2 Humbug Swarms in hand.
Oh, and some problem right here with a Xenon Destroyer. Unless he wants to 2-for-1 himself with a Back Blast next turn, or wait until he gets to 6 power. He doesn't have great removal here for the Xenon Destroyer, so we will most likely be taking some hits there.
Meanwhile, Starlbirth is on full 5 faction again. Don't have sight of their hand, so I'm going to try and look into what kind of bombs and removal that Ghost Dragon could be expecting. Ooh, Starlbirth using Pack Hunt on the top end with Argentport Ringmaster, Horse Snatcher Bat, Striking Snake Formation, 2 Champion of Cunnings, and a Waystone Infuser. So Starlbird's got some goodies going on, and Ghost Dragon's on the back foot here with a rapid shot coming out.
That is an interesting rapid shot.
Yeah.
That is a pre-anything rapid shot. Ghost Dragon just blocked with the Stranger, and Starlbirth choose to...
Yeah. Sniffs out the Alchemist Blast there, correctly plays around it instead of waiting to go to damage and then losing his unit. Starlbirth, I guess, had nothing better to do with that turn, uses the rapid shot, but what's his follow-up plan to keep the Xenon Destroyer alive, right? That's always the question with Xenon Destroyer. You can use things to keep it going, but should you?
Exactly. I would have been super happy if I got a 2-for-1 out of my Xenon Destroyer. That's basically all you can ask out of this card. If it trades, it's fine. It got you some life, got some damage in, then trade it. If you get a 2-for-1 out of this guy, you are happy.
Yeah, so he ended up using the rapid shot to keep it alive and gets rewarded by getting a 1-1 from his Voyaging Lumen. Again, don't know if that was really worth it, but he's got 35 health to 17, so that's a good spot to be sitting. Ghost Dragon's got control of the air, but is losing the race.
Yeah, but Jump Bug Swarm has its name for a reason. It's going to put on a lot of pressure in the air, and then after a while will leave single bugs behind, most likely, to start jumping to 5-5 here. So even with having the really strong ground presence here, he still might lose that race.
Yeah, and I'm looking into seeing if Ghost Dragon has any way to augment this flying force other than just hitting A space with it. But there we see 5 more damage goes in, while Starlbirth only hits for 6. We're just seeing them hit each other back and forth. Nobody's interested in blocking too much, although one Humbug stays back to start being on chump duty, like you said.
Well, he doesn't really have any haymakers to augment the flying force, if I can see it right, but he has a Withering Witch in his deck, suddenly making all his Humbugs into excellent blockers.
Yeah. He also has a Beast Color's Amulet to throw on one of these flyers and get a 5-5 down on the ground. Oblivion Spike gives him a little more health and can snipe some things. Champion of Mystery, I would take a 7-7 on the ground right now. And also Direwood Prowler to eat up one of these random Humbugs, turn them into 2 cards. But here we see a Xenon Initiation come down and trade with the Stormcrasher so it can't get larger. All right.
That is interesting. I think I would have still chosen the Magus there. I feel the 1-1 was still a valuable. Also, I don't agree with the line Ghost Dragon took there. He left one Humbug back to block, then chose not to block with it.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, because if you're Starlbirth and you had given initiation on the Magus, then you could have swung with the 1-1, and they only had a 2-1 and a 1-1 flyer back to block anyway, and you're really happy with that trade.
Exactly, and this 1 point of damage would have mattered, right? He would have presented lethal here. I mean, at this point, not because he had the Amethyst Acolyte to get rid of the blocker there.
Yeah. Ghost Dragon took some risks with those swings, didn't quite chump block when we thought he should have, and that game ended up ending a lot sooner than I think either of us expected.
Oh, was that game 3 already?
Yeah, that was game 3. They were tied 1-1. That was game 3. So that means that Starlbirth takes that match. Ghost Dragon loses there. And
once again, pretty interesting. Like that's a pretty rare game plan we have seen there. Like Xenon Flyers. That's a new one.
Does not quite pair as well with the Slime Spitter Slug, but yeah, normally Xenon not known for its air superiority, but when you've got 2 Humbug Swarms, hey, you'll certainly take it. Although it didn't quite work out there, couldn't race the 5-5, and it looks like we're not going to get into any backup matches, but instead we're going to talk a bit about what is going on today. What is sealed? What is even limited? What is this tournament? So this is the first ever Eternal Sealed Tournament. Sealed has never even been a thing in client. This is not something normally supported by the client. So just a rundown of what exactly is going on today. Everybody that signed up is free to play in. This is just a free to play in tournament. There is prize money though for the top 8, thanks to KCBandit, our sponsor. But every player that signed up or registered get a 12-pack pool. They get 8 packs from the Eternal Throne, 4 packs from Omens of the Past. And out of those packs, they have to build a 75 card deck, and we gave them 90 minutes to do so. In addition to those 144 cards they got, they get 4 extra cards, 2 Seek Powers, 2 Diplo Seals, just to help smooth out the power bases, make the fixing a little bit better, up the overall playability of certain pools, and have a better gameplay experience for everybody. Because we're still trying to have fun here, right? It's a game, it's a serious tournament, but we're trying to eliminate non-games. So, we didn't want to go with the full 4 Seek Power. This was actually an internal debate for a bit while we were getting feedback, because we didn't want everybody to just always go 3, 4, 5 faction. So instead we did a split. 2 Seek Power, 2 Diplo Seal, because Diplomatic Seal is a controversial and pretty difficult card to evaluate, right, man?
It is not easy to wrap your head around it. Oftentimes when I stream, people tell me, pick the Diplomatic Seal. It's a fixing card. That is not true. In most cases, even. We've talked about it earlier, and Diplomatic Seal is fixing for very influence light decks, if you want to look at it that way. Doesn't matter how many colors you're playing, it really depends on how light your deck is in influence. Yep. So for example, if your deck consists more than double influence card, I would straight up cut Diplomatic Seal. Everything below that, you could think about it. What is your experience with Diplomatic Seal in draft or in constructed? How would you apply it there?
I don't have a ton of experience with Diplo Seal in draft, honestly. It's very rare that I include it in my deck, just because I find if I have even one card with like triple influence that's deeper, especially in this format where you end up in 3 faction quite a bit and sometimes have those dreaded double influences of 3 different cards, like I never want to see Diplomatic Seal in those kind of decks. So generally I just don't even end up picking it, because I'll pick something else out of a pack that it's in, because other players just value it a bit higher than I do. I don't see it very late in packs. In constructed, my opinion on it's changed quite a bit over time. Sometimes I thought I'd play it all the times. Other times I've shared the opinion with other people where you only played in 2 faction decks at max. And now recently I've come around to it more thinking that it's about maximum number of like influence pips is all that really matters, not how many factions you're playing. Like the best example I can give is recently with the Tale of Horus Traver coming out. Strangers got Horus Traver, the 1-drop that lets you make any influence that you want. And I found that in those 5-faction Stranger decks, once I started really brewing with them and trying to build them and craft the power base, because it turns out 5-faction power bases are complicated to make, Diplo Seal was one of the best cards you could play in that deck, because you only needed 1 of each influence, and sometimes you could just end up with those starting hands that are like Horus Traver, Seek Power, Diplo Seal, Banner. That's all 5 influence that you need. So I think that's the big role that Diplomatic Seal plays, is if you're need more keepable starting hands, trying to cut down on mulliganing, and if your first 3 turns are the most important turns of your deck, that's where you really want to think about playing Diplomatic Seal. With a lot of these seal decks, you're looking at more just mid-range to control good stuff in 3 to 4 factions. A lot of them aren't going to want to play Diplomatic Seal.
Yeah, I agree. I think in draft it is one of those cards you don't really want to touch. And as long as your deck in sealed, I think it's kind of the same. It might even be worse in sealed, because you have a very limited pool to choose from the cards. So you can't really sculpt your deck the way you can in draft. So you have to make sure that your power base can support these most of the time, like 3.5 colors you have in your deck, and then Diplomatic Seal can be a really hindrance, right? If your deck cannot afford to lose out on an influence, what did you call it? Like a pip, right? On an influence pip, then you want to cut influence from.
Yep.
Then
all right.
Cut the. I mean, it took me a while when I first started out Eternal. I'm not going to lie, I had my fair struggle with Diplomatic Seal. That card is not easy to wrap your head around.
It's still a card that I'm constantly reevaluating, just because it works in mysterious ways, even though it tells you exactly what it does. It looks like we do have one more backup matchup at least to get into here, so we're gonna suspend this fun Diplo Seal talk and dive in, as we've got Finkel up against Valiot. Finkel is another player that goes way back. Doesn't always get to play in these tournaments, but is coming out for this sealed event. Not sure how he's been doing so far, but he just threw away a hand that had Curiox in it because its fixing wasn't that great. This one's not much better, but at least it's got Herald Songs to help sculpt it.
At least it doesn't have Curiox in it, right? So it's looking better. All of the cards here is theoretically playable here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me quickly check Finkel's deck list here, see what he's all about. He definitely has an Elysian base, as we have seen. He's playing the Curiox. And looks like the Shadow is a splash. He's splashing for Execute. He's splashing for... not much really. Looks like he's a very traditional draft deck here. He's like Elysian base with a... Well, never mind. He apparently has a 5-faction splash. He's splashing fire, he's splashing justice, and he's going for the splash as well.
We see the Morningstar in hand, and Finkel just chose to discard one of his few castable spells, getting rid of the Felm Stranger, banking on hitting that 3 power, and wants to play out these Tundra Explorers or Cobalt Acolyte, valuing that Surso's meddling as just the only removal he has, but he's missing on power, and Valiot has a Lethrai Ranger in play.
Oh, that is so rough. I think with such a power-stuck hand, I would have ditched the Backlash instead, since it's going to be pretty unlikely that you are in a position where you can just hold up 2 power in the very near future.
Yeah, and he gets punished real hard for not holding onto that 2/2, as he can't play one down here to get in the way of Lethrai Ranger. And now he's staring down a unit that not even the mighty Scaly Gruon can bounce off of.
And that is a really unfortunate draw for Finkel. Not finding a single power with double Herald Song plate.
Mm-hmm. And Valiant there just drew an Echo spell. He's got 2 hatchlings, Cloud Snake hatchlings, Terriatch hatchlings in his deck. Wouldn't be surprised if that's it. While he's stuck on 3 power, Finkel's stuck on 2, and Valiant's way ahead on board here. Valiant's got a lot of haymakers to back up this Lethrai Ranger as well if he can cast them. There's a Permafrost.
Wow.
Deathstrike is in his deck. Oh man, Eye of Winter is in Valiant's deck. Geralt Iceheart, Waystone Infuser, I guess on the splash. Sleepless Night for the top end. A whole lot of goodies going on in Valiant's deck. We've seen some crazy Felm decks in this
I think
field.
I'm in love with this deck. It sounds really good. Although Finkel does have a channel as well, as Curiox and Scouting Party for his top end. But yeah, that was just a really draw. How much power is Finkel?
Wow, yeah. Finkel has a lot of very nice cards in hand, but can't cast them. Finds another 2-drop. Can't cast that either here.
That is an incredibly unlucky draw. Finkel has seen 10 cards after his initial draw and not a single power card. That is incredibly unlucky there.
How much power is Finkel playing, though, on his base? 9, 20. He's only playing... looks like 26 power plus 3 Seeks. So 29 power, I think, is a little on the low end if you're playing
that is
things
true.
like Channel the Tempest. Like, I know in my practice, I was trying to hit, I was playing around 32 power in my decks, I think was about where I settled on, like, math-wise, that I was comfortable with. But it all depends on the deck that you're playing. But I think he is a little light on it, but this is still pretty extreme variance.
Yeah. I mean... to be fair, the deck really could use some more power, and it can make use of the extra power. It has Herald Song, it has Channel, it has Swindle, it has card draw, basically, it has card filtering. So he might have been a little bit greedy there with his power base, maybe.
Yep, so Finkel scoops it up there. That was game 2. We actually get a third game here. Finkel was up 1-0. So... We're not done with the action just yet. This match is, I guess their first match was a real slugfest, although I guess neither of them are playing Slime Spitter Slug.
Oh, I can see that. Those decks just going down to the wire here. They have some very defensive early cards. Mm-hmm. Well, at least no. I should say Finkel has some very good defensive early cards to make the deck go down. He's running the Gruan, he's running Bold Adventurer, Borderlands Waykeeper, 2 Scaly Gruans. He has just, and a Stormlix as well. He has just like all the defensive 2-drops the game has to offer.
And here we go. We're into game 3, and there is the Diplo seal. Finkel might be on 3 faction, and he's playing a Curiox and a Channel the Tempest, but apparently he's still happy to have that fixing in his opener again. Everybody's got a different opinion on Diplo Seal, so I'm not going to judge one way or another. But at least right now, he can cast every spell he's got.
Yeah, this hand looks much better, and he can wait with the Diplo Seal, right? He can give it one more draw, or 2 more draws, I should say, before he has to play it.
Wow, and then another nice opener from Valiot here. Something on 2 for both players. And yeah, Finkel finds a fire source, so he can now use Diplo Seal to get deeper into Primal or Time, because he's got, as we alluded to, Channel the Tempest and Curiox on that top end. Those are not easy influence requirements to meet.
Do you go, though, for the... Well, I guess you do. You have, yeah, I guess that's the correct line. You to go most likely for Primal, right? Since for the Channel.
I'm not sure how many double time cards he has naturally.
I mean, Curiox is the thing. Curiox is certainly a problem to cast in this deck.
Yeah, I didn't look at his exact list as far as how many double time spells he has. He has an Ancient Lure that he could draw sooner, but now with an Archaeologist as well, he'll get all the fixing he needs. So yeah, he goes with the time source here. He'll have double Primal, double time, single fire, and then Archaeologist will help him later on with the other fixing. Opts to go with the Familiar, so he has the option of playing Archaeologist next turn and really ramp into things.
Yeah, he can just be on 7 power in 2 turns and has really good influence.
Mm-hmm. Stormlink's crashing in here. Valiot's got a pause. Maybe another Levitate to cycle? I don't know how many Levitates are in Valiot's deck or what is causing this pause here. Let me check that out. But
I think it's either Levitate or Envelop, and Envelop doesn't really...
Yeah, I think you nailed it with Envelop. He only had 1 Levitate, so yeah, that is an Envelop that's in hand. Not a card I'm the biggest fan of, but maybe if you're light on removal, you got to take what you can get when you're a defensively leaning deck.
Yeah, it's sometimes the answer you want against some go-toward strategies with weapons. Sometimes you need the bounce to get rid of them.
Yeah, I feel like that's a card I would try to side out in this matchup, though, but maybe Valiot just didn't have better options. Here we see an Execute come out on Avarax Familiar.
I think most of the time the decision to execute the ramp card might be worse than just waiting for the card that gets ramped into and then just executing with the bigger threat, because your opponent will draw the power eventually. And even though you delayed the big threat coming down by a turn, maybe 2, it still will come down. And currently Valiot was not in position to really pressure Finkel out of the game. So I'm not quite sure how much I like the execute there on the Familiar.
Yeah, I think in this matchup, you need to make the most of every card you've got. Again, we don't know what Valiot's hand looked like, but he wasn't under a ton of pressure, as you said. And, well, Soaring Stranger would have blanked the Familiar anyways. So, yeah, that's a very aggressive use of Execute. But without seeing the full picture, we can only speculate so much. Yeah. It's certainly not what I would usually want to use Execute on. I can agree with you there.
So Finkel running somewhat out of gas, has a lot of power in hand, but his board position is going to be really strong. Next turn, he can go with the ultimate on his Stormcrasher and swing in for 7 without much contention, unless Valiot does want to ultimate his Boren's Waykeeper here, which I think I like.
Yeah, I like ultimating that there. We'll see if he has any other plans. We know he's got an Envelop in hand. We're not sure what else. The other interesting thing that happened there was that Finkel opted to get a Primal Sigil with Archaeologist when he already had 2 more in hand for the full 4 Primal influence. I'm a little surprised he didn't get the Time Sigil just so he had the 3rd for that Curiox that's in his deck. It ultimately may not end up mattering, but here we see the ultimate from Stormcrasher come down, the A-Space come in. Envelop here will buy Valiot some time, but if you use it on Stormcrasher, it can re-ultimate again later.
Yeah, there's no interesting choice. There was really no good value to gain here. I think I'd rather would have liked for Valiot to ultimate his Waykeeper, maybe get in with both, just to start the race maybe.
Or if you ultimate Waykeeper, you could hold back with both, go for a double block.
Yeah.
That would have been the option as well. Of course, you wouldn't have been able to hold up Envelop to blow out anything is the issue there because you use Seek Power to hit that 5th power. But Ashara comes down. That's a pretty tough card to deal with, but Finkel's got a mortar that lines up nicely. And wow, another big one here with Skycrag Wivark.
Oh yeah, he can clean up the board quite nicely here. He can just go mortar the Ashara, eat the 1/3, and go crunch in for 6 here.
Yeah, it's real nice here as well because Valiot's tapped out. You know the way is cleared for this Skycrag Wivark. No combat tricks or other spells are going to get in your way, and Finkel takes that line.
Yeah, next turn he has like a 6/6 Stormcrasher coming down with being ahead on board already. Your opponent struggling to contest this board here. We'll see what value it can come up with here. Cloud Snake is most likely not going to be good enough. Bone Picker, on the other hand, might be. If he finds a way to control the skies again.
Yeah, it's just going to be tough to control the skies when you know this 4/4 Stormcrasher is still in your opponent's hand, and it could become a 6/6 flyer by reactivating its ultimate because you put it back in hand. But in the meantime, the Skycrag Wivark Archaeologists crash in here, and Valiot goes down to 9 and loses one of his flyers.
Yeah, he needs some form of heart removal. Not quite sure if he has like an Execute in his deck or something else. Has to be heart removal. Anything damage-based will most likely not do, unless...
He's got a Polymorph, it looks like, and an Eye of Winter, another Execute. So he's got some options, although Eye of Winter would end up using up all your power, which is not the best spot when you've been a little tight on it, but it's better than dying.
It is. Eye of Winter really shines when you're ahead on board. It still can keep you in a game. It's still good to stall out, but it's not great here since you have so many things you want to spend your power on. You want to pump the Bone Picker so it can contest the ground units. You want to keep the 4/4 or 6/6 rather from hitting your face. So it's a tough spot to be in. I think we don't know what his last card is, but his best bet might still be just going for the bone. Oh, he has a Death Strike.
There you go.
Well, that might be a little too late, though.
Yeah, teleport off the top here for Finkel means he
really
can just get the Bone Picker out of the picture, hit A space, and get in for a lot of damage that I don't know Valiot will be able to recover from.
Yeah, this might be too late. Let's see. If the best line he can take is trade, or the most valuable line, and take his 6 go down to 3, that means he needs to play 2 units next turn.
Yeah.
To survive.
Yeah, Valiot needs a real good play here. Needs 2 bodies down or a way to remove one of Finkel's bodies while playing something. So an Execute off the top here could be what the doctor ordered, something like that. But there's the Bone Picker that's back. Valiot's hovering over some units and chooses to flash freeze on his turn rather than on Finkel's turn, which means they'll be unfrozen next turn instead of an extra turn.
Yeah.
So a little weird on the timing there, because if you had waited for Finkel to A space and go for it, you could have frozen the 3/3, the 1/4, and eaten the 2/3.
Yeah. I think Valiot gave away a lot of value there. Potentially even game losing, depending. I mean, the fact that Finkel just drew his flying unit there might have... Oh, yeah, I think it mattered big time here.
Oh, yeah. Well, Curiox the Collector is coming in.
But Finkel getting punished here for not fitching the time with his archaeologist there. Not having the triple time.
Finkel never got that 3rd time source. Curiox can't come out here, but Valiot getting punished for his own mistiming of flash freeze and having to use that envelop in an odd way earlier as Finkel crashes in, and Valiot now isn't able to get double blocks where he wants to, because if he does that, he dies.
Yeah, he's forced to jump now, unfortunately. And given the card quality he drew, I think he had a real shot here. If he used his flash freeze differently and was able to stall out, ultimate his Stormcrasher, and start growing his Bone Picker there, he was in a really good spot. I mean, the fact that Finkel just drew Curiox would have been problematic anyway, most likely.
Yeah. No, it's true. If he had waited on that flash freeze, that would have been a Storm Leaks eaten up, no damage taken. It would have really given him a shot at crawling back into this game, at least before Curiox came down. Instead, Finkel takes this one 2-1. Playing quite well there, even though that time influence move, I think we'd dock him points on. But hey, Bracket says he wins. That's a win in my book as well.
I mean, it's hard to keep track of everything, right? Especially if we don't know how his sideboard looks like, but we have to keep track of so many cards. It's easy to get lost on some of the finer details there.
Yeah, it's easy for us to be up in the booth looking at deck lists while not playing and be like, this is the exact move you should be making. All these little details are a lot easier for us to pick out. When you're in the middle of it, you're just like, oh, I've already got plenty of influence. I'll just pick this primal one because it's the first one in the list. Nothing bad will happen. And nothing bad really happened. You won.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, Finkel wins 2-1. That is it for this round. We're only 3 rounds in. We've got a whole lot more action coming your way. So we're going to take a quick break, get a little rest and relaxation for us and the players as we get the next round started. And we'll be back with more sealed action in just a moment.